Tonight, you will witness the first assembly of a democratized innovation hub in the Mid-South, where you will also witness the ratification of the hub constitution. Before that, we will have a few important addresses from the hub leadership team. First, we would like to invite the Mid-South Hub's Principal Investigator, Vanderbilt's Vice Provost of Research and Innovation, Padma Raghavan.
Thank you. What a monumental day. Here we are, gathered to launch the Mid-South Innovation Hub. Welcome, welcome. This is a singular moment of opportunity for us and for the country, and indeed for the world. As many of you know, and many of you have been instrumental in doing, you've been working behind the scenes to enable perhaps a once-in-a-generation expansion of federal funding for innovation. You've been part of the CHIPS Act, the Advanced Research Projects Agency starting for health, and many of these other pieces of legislation. And as you know, the CHIPS Act resulted in a new directorate at the National Science Foundation, the TIP Directorate for Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships. This is historic in its own right because the last new directorate to be established at the NSF was in 1986. And the best part is that with the TIP Directorate, there is expanded funding for the work that we are all so vested in doing. Their flagship program is the I-Core Hub, and we are part of the first cohort. The world is looking to us to lead, and there's so much we can do here by working together to take ideas into the communities where they can make a difference through our partnerships, and most of all, our commitment to inclusive innovation. As we gather here to launch our Mid-South Hub and build a sustainable, inclusive innovation ecosystem right here in this region, I want to sort of reflect with you on what we've been doing last year together as a community. It was just last May when there was that mad sprint to submission. I think Charleston looked a little bit different, if I remember right. He was camped out, writing proposals. Thank you. And all of us were engaged in it together. We submitted it on time, and come June, we had a little bit of a concern because NSF raised a flag about some compliance issues, but we got ahead of that. Come August, we got a signal of hope. They wanted a revised budget from us. Well, we know what that means, so we were quite optimistic. And then in September, it was official. We were awarded the project that we have been so eager and so committed to do. And then in October and November, we got together again and worked closely to think of our strategy going forward for the next 5 years, and most importantly for this first year that's ahead of us, where we are eager to do so much. And after a little break in Christmas comes January. I think towards the end of January, the National Science Foundation released the R&D expenditures numbers for last year, for 2021. And across all our institutions, across all our partners, there is a combined $2.85 billion of R&D expenditures that we as a group can leverage to drive impact through inclusive innovation. That's a big number, that's a bold number, and that's what's powering our work here. And so today, thank you for coming here, thank you for being here, thank you for leading this very meaningful work that lies ahead of us. So let's lean in and make it happen. Onward.
as we enter this new era of innovation. We will now hear from the champion of innovation on this campus, the man who conceptualized the Wond'ry, Vanderbilt's Innovation Center, and first spread the word innovation around this campus. Please welcome the Mid-South Hub's lead faculty lead, co-research lead, Vanderbilt's executive director of the Wond'ry, David Owens.
All right, people, I won't cry. How about that? No, this is unbelievable. It's amazing. Also, want to make a special welcome to our guests. Welcome to Nashville. Welcome to Vanderbilt. Welcome to Wond'ry. And that's the home of our I-Core Hub. I think, to me, I had some thoughts about this. To me, this event is proof that dreams can become possibilities, and that with persistence, those possibilities can actually be made manifest. They can be made real in the world. And our dream, our ambition here at Vanderbilt has been to create a space for sharing ideas and understandings, and a space to create the kind of meaningful relationships that make the pursuit of positive value change, that is the pursuit of innovation, possible. Or easy. Or maybe not easy, but just not harder than it has to be. We've all seen a lot of that. You're present here as representatives of Vanderbilt. We have a lot of people from Vanderbilt, from Nashville, from the region, and as representatives of the Mid-South Hub partners, suggest that you all share this ambition around innovation. The ambition is to build something that puts the intellect, the intellectual and productive and creative capacity of each of our schools, our institutions of discovery, our institutions of learning, to build something that puts these capacities to use to drive change that will make this world a better place. That's what we're trying to do. At the same time, and many of you have heard me complain, there's an unfortunate fact. And that fact is when innovation comes to town, and it's come to a lot of these towns, you know that, there are winners and there are losers. And we all know who the losers are. We know that too well. We know that those who are left behind, they lose out in ways that are cultural, economic, political, and environmental. They lose in terms of health, education, social support, and the list goes on. It's also a truism that this inequity hurts all of us. And one source of this injury, when innovation comes to town, when it came to town, is that an important segment of us were not given access to the mechanisms for change. We're locked out. Well, I don't think we can fix the world, at least not tonight, not in this funding cycle, anyway. But we can try, certainly can try. And this hub represents our effort at trying. That's what we're trying to do. The hub's going to embody our shared regional ambition as students, staff, faculty, researchers, community, citizens, as evolved humans, with the support of the NSF, to support the blossoming of the innovation process, a regional innovation motor that's accessible, equitable, and importantly, inclusive. And this is how we bring the returns to innovation to everyone in the region and beyond. I want to express my deep thanks to Chancellor Diermeyer and Provost Raver for challenging us to lead with our values in the proposal submission. When we applied for this grant, we were not sure how they were going to take it. They said, lead with your values. I also want to thank Vice Provost Ragland for her ongoing friendship and her unwavering support for our institutional efforts to create an innovation glide path. That's the term we've been using inside. I also wanted to quickly thank Dina for her leadership partnership. She's our Deputy Director in building and running the Innovation Center, the Wond'ry, and for building a world-class I-Core site together with the brilliant classical romantic, Dr. Charleston Bell. And of course, let's all please acknowledge the commitment and heavy lifting of the Wond'ry team in making this happen. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dave, for your inspirational energy and leadership as we seek to transform and galvanize a culture of innovation across the Mid-South. We will now hear from a proven leader and entrepreneurial innovator who helped bring I-Core to Vanderbilt, changed the core philosophy of entrepreneurial instruction on campus, and first articulated the concept of a Mid-South Innovation Hub. We welcome the Mid-South Hub lead instructor, Vanderbilt's Deputy Director of the Wond'ry, Dina Metter.
Okay, so y'all, I have to say, seeing you here tonight, this is such a beautiful sight. This is such a special moment, so I'm gonna try to make my way through this, y'all. So as we celebrate together, one of the things I wanted to do was kind of take us back, highlight just a few of the moments in time that ended up bringing us all here tonight. So just a few short months after the Wond'ry started in 2016, that's when we became an I-Corps site. And so for those that aren't familiar with the National Science Foundation's I-Corps program, so this helps train people at universities on how to take their research, their ideas, their innovations, right out into the world where they can have an impact on society. And I feel like at this point, I gotta let you in on a little bit of a secret. So while I had experience launching and extending a venture before I came to the Wond'ry, when we became a site, I really didn't understand the value of customer discovery or how ventures could really leverage that business model canvas framework to put their ventures on a really solid foundation. So this is when we hired Dr. Charleston Bell. And you know how you see ducks on a pond, right? And they're gliding and it looks beautiful and it's seamless, but underneath the water, the feet are just going 100 miles an hour. Well, that is what we were doing. So we were trying to figure out not only how to do I-Corps, but how to bring it to life on campus. So we established our first program, the Sullivan Family Ideator Program, and we started to see these really interesting ideas come through our program, make their way into the national program. They were getting this experience that was setting them on a path with some really remarkable outcomes. We saw people like Nat and Tori. So they started a fintech technology that helped refugees be able to carry their money across borders in absence of a formal banking system. They were serving 5 countries in Africa when their company got acquired in March of last year. We had our first undergraduate team, so Tyler and Jonathan, and they were just a couple years, they're just a couple years out of undergrad, and their nuclear battery technology has been valued at $100 million. So all this to say, right, then after that, Charles and I, we took our own ventures through I-Corps. We're a little bit of method actors, if you can't kind of tell the way that we operate. And the NSF National Program, it requires you to do 100 customer discovery interviews. Now for my venture, I was about 70 interviews in when I learned about an entirely new customer segment that I didn't know anything about. That one contact and that one interview changed the entire course of my venture. And that ended up being my first customer, an almost $1 billion company. And that program prepared us where we were successful with an SBIR grant application. And then when we needed to go outside and raise outside funding, we secured double our ask, and we did it in less than 2 weeks. So that's the power of this program, and that's why we're so excited about having this hub and uniting all of these partners. So I was actually serving as an industry mentor for a national I-Corps team when I got the news that when I came home, I was not going to be able to come back to campus. And it was that time of uncertainty that really set the wheels in motion for this collaboration. So Charleston and I jumped on a Zoom call, both sitting at home, and I'm not gonna lie, that was his Zoom background for about the first 6 months of the pandemic. So that's what he went with. On that call, we were brainstorming how we're gonna keep the momentum going, right, when everything is changing. And one of the questions that we asked ourselves was, if we're not having to meet on campus, we're not seeing people in person, what is keeping us from collaborating with all of the other institutions around us, our HBCUs and our community colleges, our state universities? And the answer to that question was absolutely nothing. There was nothing keeping us from doing that. So the very first cohort, after the start of the pandemic, we had an absolutely brilliant team join us from Meharry Medical College. And they became the first Meharry team ever to make their way to the National I-Corps program. And it was early proof that this kind of collaboration, this could really work, right? And around that time, the opportunity was emerging. So rather than having these I-Core sites at singular universities, there was a unique opportunity to unite with other schools and apply to become this hub. So, with less than 60 days to find at least 7 partners and write a really compelling proposal, we started making calls. And you know what we found? We found an absolutely amazing group of professionals that were working really hard to help bring ideas into the world. We learned about their strengths in disaster resilience and clean tech and biotech and nutrition and food science and cybersecurity and esports and virtual reality and all of these amazing things that they were doing. And not only that, but we learned that we all shared a really deep commitment to inclusive innovation and using that as a vehicle to develop this shared economic prosperity. So from DC and Virginia all the way down to Jackson, Mississippi, 9 universities have joined together, and you are sitting here with us today to officially launch the Mid-South I-Core Hub. There are many challenges that we can't solve alone, but together, we, the Mid-South, we can do anything. And by being here tonight, you are a part of this movement, and we need you. So welcome to the Mid-South Hub.
Thank you, Dina, for your continuous focus on pairing inclusivity and relationship building with customer-focused entrepreneurial training and tireless mentorship. Finally, before we proceed with the ratification of the Hub Constitution, we will hear from the framer of the Hub Constitution and leader of the Mid-South Hub. He will give us the State of the Hub address. We welcome the Wond'ry's Director of Entrepreneurship and Biomedical Innovation and your Hub Director, Charleston Bell.
Mic check, okay. What you all don't know is I'm actually a DJ, right? And so anytime before you get on the mic, you have to say mic check. Well, it's just good to see this. Let me take it a moment. Esteemed partners, hub partners, ecosystem members, students, faculty, staff, all of you in here, good evening. Oh no. That's not what we do here, okay? When one person says good evening, you all have to say good evening back. So let's try this again. Hub leadership team.
Yes!
Yes! Actually, we're gonna do that. When I say, what say you? You say yes. Let's practice. What say you? Yes! What say you? Yes! Hub leadership team, what say you? Yes! Esteemed Hub General Assembly, what say you? Yes! The marshals of the Innovation Corps, what say you? Yes! Yes! This side of the Convocation Chamber, what say you? I know this side can be louder. What say you? Yes! And now all of us, as the Mid-South ecosystem, everyone in this room, all of us together, what say you? Yes! Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Hub Convocation. Give yourself a round of applause. So there's one word I say a lot when I'm talking to our hub partners, and that is esteemed. I know y'all are tired of every email you get from me talking about your esteemed partners, but I really, really mean that. When you talk to these people, when you get to know them, you understand that there is purity. You understand that there is a true connection and a deep desire to help people. That's why we're here today. And that's why I say esteem. And we started off as, colleagues, getting to know each other. Then we switched to partners. But then after meeting each of you at your campuses, I can say we are now friends. We are friends. And that's the sort of connection that you need in order to really create change. Now I'm here today to give the State of the Hub address. And then as I was trying to work on my slides, I realized most people don't even know what the hub is. You hear the word, but it's just this black box, like the hub. What is the hub? What is the hub, right? So we are going to talk about that today. And we're going to start super basic. The logo. Now, there are only two people in this whole world that know what this logo means. And it's me and that lady back there with the camera holding right there. Now, don't be embarrassed, it's good. Because let me tell you why she knows this. Back when I was writing the hub proposal, I was trying to figure out how to embody everything that we were doing. And I wrote this really long paragraph of ridiculousness. And I sent it to Lauren, and she created this. So let's talk about what this means, okay? It looks obvious, but when you look at it, it encapsulates a lot. Dina and I, as she mentioned, we traveled all across the Mid-South visiting every single hub partner at your institutions. And as we went all through the Mid-South, we started seeing very similar landscapes. The tall trees, the plains, the mountains, the rolling hills, the rivers. Take a second to think about your home, where we live right now across the Mid-South, and you look at this logo, and that landscape is this. That's something that we all have in common. It is our home. But that's not all. That is not just a pretty picture. There's more meaning in this logo. I mentioned the river. What is a river? A river, when compared against the other bodies of water like lakes and oceans, river is water moving in unity. River is water moving in unity. We are all now moving in unity to go towards the same shared goal and same shared vision. And wait, there's more. Now, when we first came with the logo, there were some people that were a little upset because they're like, why are you using Vanderbilt colors? I thought this was about inclusive innovation. Why are you using Vanderbilt colors? But the truth is, I had never even thought about those colors because the yellow you see there is a sunrise. It is a sunrise over the Mid-South landscape that represents the dawn of a new age of innovation, a new age of ecosystem development, a new age of belonging in the Mid-South. And it's not just the sun cresting over the top of the horizon. You see those connections? Yes, those connections do represent all of these hub partner institutions self-assembling together. But it also represents the network of every single person in this room. Because in order to achieve the grand shared vision that I will be talking about in just a moment, it will take all of us. Now, what is the reason why we need all of this in the first place? Well, when you look at this landscape of the Mid-South, you realize that in the Mid-South, we have problems. We have problems. We have challenges. We have communities in pain. All of these things that I listed up here, just take a quick moment to read. All these things that I listed up here, you could list off the top of your head. These are problems, right? And how do we go about solving these problems? What is a solution that we could bear and bring? I'm looking at Dave, because the solution is innovation. Innovation. 10 years ago, 11, right? Dave Owens taught me the definition of innovation. Innovation is positive value change. We all have to be on the same page with this. This is the definition of innovation. Positive value change. Now, what does this mean in kind of like the grand scheme of things? Well, I teach a class called Innovation, Activism, and Altruism as a part of a program for medical innovators. And so those medical innovators come and get trained on how to discover needs and challenges and problems so that they can create value to solve them. Innovation activism is about the how. How do you go about innovating? How do you learn about innovation? But the innovation altruism is about why. The definition of altruism is the empathetic, unselfish concern for others. And if you are wise to the design thinking model, you realize that empathy is the first step in the design thinking process and the first step in the innovation process. And when you go and you take your energy, your heart, and your mind, and you are able to suffer with someone else, that is empathy. And when you decide to go and use that same energy and intellect to end someone's suffering, there's a word for that. And that word is compassion. Compassion, when you're ending someone's suffering, you know what that is? It's positive value change. So what does this mean? Innovation is compassion. This is the fundamental concept of our model, that we are here to find the needs and introduce solutions to solve these problems. Now, a lot of y'all looking at me and said, didn't his title say something like Director of Entrepreneurship? Where's the money? Like, aren't you supposed to be talking about money or making money? If you focus on this, the money will come. Why? Because entrepreneurship is innovation, or entrepreneurship is compassion for a fee. That's what it is. But a lot of people get caught up because you get caught up in the money we're making and we're going to do this and all that. When really, it should be about innovation, and it should be about compassion. Now, the next step in this is those problems still exist, right? We can use innovation to solve problems, but these are big ones. These are really challenging, really complex problems. And not just one person or one group of people can solve complex problems like this, like these. So how do we innovate in a complex way to solve these problems? Inclusive innovation. Inclusive innovation. What is inclusive innovation? I'll tell you one thing. It's the one thing that brought us all together. On those first few calls, within the first 3 or 4 minutes, we were talking about inclusive innovation because that is a core value of the hub. Inclusive innovation. Let's do more definition. Inclusive innovation is diversity, equity, and inclusion in action. Inclusive innovation takes those two primary concepts of empathy and ideation and maximizes them. Why? Because when you need, as a team, to empathize with a very complex problem, you can do it better with a team that has a diversity of lived experience, a diversity of viewpoints, a diversity of knowledge. And that is how you can truly empathize around these problems from all these different directions. the first step. But then the second step is the same, right? If you want to ideate, if you want your team to ideate in an optimal way, you need that same diversity of expertise. You need that same diversity of viewpoints. You need that same diversity of lived experience. Inclusive innovation is innovation optimized. And inclusive entrepreneurship is that for a fee. But more so, we seek to compassionately solve the greatest needs in a financially stable fashion. Now, I'm not going to bring up those problems again because I'm not trying to dampen the mood, right? We didn't see them enough, all right? But these grand challenges, it takes a number of inclusive teams to solve them. It takes a number of inclusive ventures to solve them. And in order to do that, you have to create something called an inclusive innovation ecosystem. Now, I'm going to be frank. Now, I'm going to be brutal. 10 years ago, when I was first trying to start my company, that wasn't here. This did not exist. Literally. That's why I left the Mid-South in the first place. Because I'm going to go to California. And they'll accept me there. Right? I'm going to get out of the Mid-South. I'm going to go to California. Boy, life is funny. Because they may have a tremendous innovation ecosystem, but it is not inclusive. When I got there, right, and just a little background. As a graduate student at Vanderbilt University, I got venture capital for a startup. That was crazy. Everybody was freaking out, and they were like, hey man, if you're trying to do that like entrepreneurship stuff, you need to do it over there. And so I had to leave. I literally had to leave to start the business. And so I was looking for resources. I was looking for things that helped me, right? And I was working on a medical device company. I was trying to literally save lives, right, in suffering. And I did not have that support system. And so I go to Silicon Valley, right? The land of milk and honey, that's what they called it. Silicon Valley, the land of milk and honey. But that milk and honey was not for people like me. Real talk. So what did I do? Packed up and came home. And for year after year after year after year, I subconsciously dwelled on what it would take to build an ecosystem, an innovation ecosystem here in the Mid-South, except that this ecosystem, it wouldn't matter where you were from. It wouldn't matter what your background was. It wouldn't matter what your creed was. You could come here and believe that anything is possible for everyone. An inclusive innovation ecosystem. And for years, I tried to figure out what could be the way that we could rally around something to create this. And then I found iCore, right? Now, what is iCore? We've been saying iCore a lot. Dina gave a really good description of what iCore is. iCore is a National Science Foundation program used to train innovators and transform them into entrepreneurs so that they can take deep technologies from the university and commercialize them into the market to create jobs, to grow the markets, to improve the way of life for many people, and to create positive value change. That is iCore. And in that moment, we realized, as Dina and I were working on this, that this could be a vehicle. This could be a vehicle that we could use to bring people together, right? To create that inclusive innovation ecosystem. A little bit more about iCore. So take a look at this. iCore is in the center. You can tell I kind of like water. You keep seeing that. I like water a lot. So if you look at this graph or this figure, you see iCore in the center, and there's an upstream and there's a downstream. What iCore does, right, is iCore, when you go through there, you do your minimum of 100 customer discovery interviews. And with that, you then generate evidence to support your business model. And with that evidence, you're now optimized towards getting grants like SBIRs, raising venture capital, and even selling your business. This has been demonstrated. But it's more than that. It has upstream impacts. So all the faculty members, all the grad students, all the staff that are working on these ideas, when you go through I-Corps, you learn how to create use-inspired technology, use-inspired research, because now your focus is not just on the technology, but your focus is on the customer, the people in need. I-Corps. Then we had an opportunity when the hub was released, and like Dina said, we scrambled, right? We scrambled, we're underselling it, we were scrambling, right? Because we had 60 days and we knew people, but we had to go meet people. And I promise you, as soon as we jumped on the calls and started talking about what our values were, and that term inclusive innovation came out, all of these esteemed institutions came together, self-assembled, to create an inclusive innovation corridor that stretches from the Mississippi Delta all the way up to the monuments of DC. And through this inclusive innovation corridor, we would create that inclusive innovation ecosystem that could drive shared prosperity across our entire region. That's the point. That's the point of the hub. But when you talk about inclusive innovation, you have to be serious about your values. In the hub proposal, the hub leadership team and the hub director almost have dictatorial powers, right? Hopefully some of the imagery that you've seen here is starting to make sense. We have been given dictatorial powers, but if you truly believe in inclusive innovation as a value, then you know that the only way that you can truly function as an organization is to be equitable. Everyone has an equitable voice. Everyone has a hand in the influence of the future of the hub. And when we had those initial meetings, that was our promise. And this Constitution right here is the embodiment of that promise, where our dictatorial powers have now been bestowed to all of the hub partners, esteemed hub partners. This is the way the hub looks. So now we're jumping into little details, right? So this is what the hub looks like. You've got the hub director, me at the top. Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. Then you've got these three different groups, and in the center is the Hub General Assembly. And the General Assembly is the democratic governance power of the Mid-South Hub, right? And then we have subcommittees that descend from the General Assemblies, where all the key activities help happen. That's where the work happens. And all of those subcommittees are led and chaired by the hub leadership team. See, we're working together. And then when we can't work together or have disagreements that can't be solved through nice words and votes, then we have our external advisory board, which acts as a judiciary to break the ties. The components of this organizational structure is memorialized in these articles of this Constitution that we will sign momentarily. We have a grand vision. I want you to read to yourself kind of the drop-down lines of this, because now that the hub has been instituted, right, we can create this inclusive innovation ecosystem, right? We can work with our partners to grow, mentor, and capital networks, right, to bring resources and support to the startups that are springing forth from this I-Corps activity. We can work with partners to create workforce development programs, right? Programs that can take the commons and uplift them in upwards economic mobility, training them to be the workforce of the future so that the jobs that are created by these startups coming from this ecosystem can be full of our community members. And then we can utilize the hub to stimulate cross-sector partnerships. You all don't know this, but we do. But the people who you saw processing, it's the beginning of cross-sector partnerships all across our region. Why are we doing all of this? We want to create and galvanize regional shared prosperity. If you got your phone on you, I want you to go ahead and activate this QR code. It ain't no virus. Don't be afraid. We're not sleeping on you. It's a Vanderbilt.edu site. Come on, we're safe. But if you take a look at this QR code and then you scroll to the second page, you will see descriptions of every single one of these heirlooms. Right? You've got the scepter, right, of the Grand Marshal, the scepter of the Innovation Corps. You know, the marshals that walked in and lined the aisle, they are the future. They are the future. They are the Innovation Corps. And then you've got these heirlooms. And every single one of those heirlooms means something deep and special to every one of these people up here, my esteemed friends. And then you've got the heirloom that is the shield of a delicate democracy. The shield, you know what it represents. I talked about it for a long time at the beginning of this talk. But the shield itself is glass, right? Because we have come together based on something called trust. We have a trust between us, and that is delicate, just like a democracy ruled by a framed document. And then we have the heirloom of a dictator, all right? The heirloom of a dictator. Now, I saw some of y'all look at me when I was walking in with the crown. I saw you looking like, yo, what's he on, man? What's he on? But what it represents is that the crown, right, has been decoronated and is now gifted to the entire embodiment of the hub. You know, sometimes I get emotional when I think about some of the things that we could achieve together. And I think about some of the stuff I went through. And then when I look in the crowd, I see an inclusive innovation ecosystem. Because this is the beginning of something really special. Right? Everyone in here has a role. Everyone in here has the capability to innovate. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter what your background is, what you look like. That's not what we care about. What we care about is the positive value change that you could bring into this world. Right? That's what we're representing. That's what we're doing. And that's what the Mid-South Hub represents. So I'm supposed to stand up here and talk about what the state of the hub is. Well, the state of the hub is one thing. The state of the hub is that we are just getting started. Thank you so much. We can be seated. All right. Now it's time for business. Before we authorize and ratify this hub constitution, let me read aloud to you all a very brief excerpt, very brief, so I've been talking for a minute, I'm gonna let y'all go. Significant events or movements that have had major historical, socio-political, or technological impacts on America have either centered on or permeated across the region that we define here as the Mid-South. A region of historical innovation in trade, transportation, agriculture, and energy, the Mid-South has influenced the surrounding regions of the country, from the Northeast and the Atlantic to the Midwest and Deep South. At the intersection of the American North and South, the Mid-South has been a region of both socio-political and technological heterogeneity. In the 1850s, railway innovation united the Mid-South, stretching through Virginia to Tennessee, into the heartland and down to Mississippi. During the antebellum era, a metaphorical railroad stretched across the Mid-South, the Underground Railroad, were a network of altruists united in an effort to secretly aid, guide, and transport the enslaved to freedom. This movement culturally shifted the outcomes of the oppressed, impoverished, and disadvantaged while shifting the socio-political future of both the region and the nation. An evolution of the socio-economic and technical political movements of the past, both physical and metaphorical. The Mid-South Hub shall bring evidence-based entrepreneurial training, professional development, and the power of technological innovation to all stakeholders. We, the esteemed institutions of the Mid-South Innovation Hub, hailing from disparate locations within the Mid-South region, do assemble into a consortium of diverse, deep technology producing institutions of higher education in order to leverage programmatic investments, catalyze technological commercialization, spur economic development, and form the future of inclusive American innovation, and galvanize shared prosperity across our region and beyond into perpetuity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the Mid-South Innovation Hub. Let the Hub leadership team and the democratized body of the Hub General Assembly, let us ratify this Constitution of the Mid-South Innovation Hub. Let you all bear witness. the reason I gave every single esteemed hub partner a pin, so that y'all know it's binding, right? Y'all know that I really mean what I'm doing, because it's that level of trust that we have. That's what's going to take us to greatness. So that's why I've given you each a pin, and then that pin will stay with our heirlooms for as long as we are together. So now, it's time for me to confer democratized powers. So, if you are part of the hub, please stand. If you're part of the hub, please stand. Due in full to the ratification of this hub constitution, our guiding agreement, which assigns rights of shared inclusive governance over this body of innovation, I do hereby, as authorized by this hub constitution, bestow and confer the democratized rights and powers so duly earned by each and every one of you. Let us move towards creating an inclusive innovation ecosystem, towards the creation of an entrepreneurial environment of belonging, and towards the galvanization of shared prosperity across our region. My esteemed friends, let us move towards this great shared vision together. Please be seated. Tomorrow, our great work begins. My friends, thank you.